evening, folks. Good evening, Mr. Harbison. How the hell are you, mate?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
Not bad. Always glad when it's a Friday. What is your favourite day of the week? It's got to be a Friday,
Yeah, I
surely,
think
isn't it?
it's definitely. I think it's a Friday as well.
Has to be a
Yeah.
Friday because the Friday is the day before Saturday. I think whilst a Saturday is technically the better day, it's the day before Sunday, which is obviously the day of depression. We're always. Do you think that ever changes as you get older? I mean, as a kid, when it got to Sunday night, you had to go for your bath, and your mum and dad would watch the Antiques Roadshow, and if you were lucky, I was going to say you got up to watch Spitting Image. I was a fully fledged adult when Spitting Image was on. But yeah, what was the kind of program of choice when we were about 10 years old? Do you think it could be? I'm trying to think. It's a Knockout was obviously on on a Saturday. What was I
Sunday.
says it was All Creatures Great and Small. I remember that.
I don't remember watching much telly on a Sunday. That was mainly like getting your homework done for the next week.
Were you quite good at homework, or were you like me? You did it the night before, but you
Yeah, the
had
night
to do it.
before. I think everybody did it the night before.
Were you the same exams when it came to swatting and revising? I was always the
No,
day before. No, were you
no,
pretty
I
good?
wasn't. No, I wasn't. I was awful.
Oh, you were, but aye.
I think I had what would be termed these days as like anxiety because I would like learn all my stuff for the exams, and then I would just go in and pretty much fail or just get above a pass every time. And I failed chemistry, and then I went in to do my higher chemistry. And after doing all that, the teacher pulled me aside and said, "Look, there's no way you're going to fail this time. We've got all your work here in the books, and you know your stuff." And I went in and failed. So
What did you get?
it,
Was it a D or a D or an E? You got?
probably a D, but I got enough to get an O level pass. When you do your
Oh,
higher,
that's right. You got a. It was like, we can't give you that, but here you go. You can get a
you,
complimentary O
you can have
grade.
a booby prize of an O level. Yeah. So
which was which was absolutely fine if you didn't already have the O grade, but you never really. I mean, unless you were extremely bright, or you know what? When you think back now, I mean, when I was at school, there was. It's not like nowadays. They give kids a certificate for anything just for turning up. Back in our day, it was firmly 50% or more pass, 49% you were. I mean, the sort of the thick kids back in the day were putting like remedial classes, and I always remember like doing chemistry and what have you. And outside in the car park, there was all the kids that they were too much bothered to like give serious. They got to drive a moped. They had a moped, and they used to get to drive it around the cones. And I'm like, how does that work?
Well, yeah, and plus it was we didn't have any coursework, so
Yeah,
everything that you had learned went up to this 2 hour window, and that would affect basically the rest of your life.
aye. And the, and
So
the, and that was the thing. It all came down. Didn't matter how good or bad you were, like mid-term, it all came down to this like pesky exam on the day, and if you crumbled, then that was it effectively.
yeah, which I did every time in
It was.
every subject apart from art.
I can. Yeah, yeah. You ever consider a career in art then at all?
Nah, no, there's not much money in
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Aye. So yeah, Sunday nights they were always rubbish. It's quite funny because I mean the only highlight of a Sunday now is my live stream. But I can't remember what happened. I didn't do it on Sunday. I did it on Monday, and people were going, "Oh, this is actually better. Do it on a Monday because a Monday you just want to get Monday out of the road. Once you've got Monday out of the road, then it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you kind of freewheel to the weekend. But yeah, Sundays, it doesn't matter what kind of job you've got or whatever. You're always like, oh, you just get that dull kind of depression. It's a weird thing.
I'm still trying to rack my brains to think of what I would actually been watching on a Sunday.
I mean, it was always Bath. It was always Bath night.
Songs of Praise and
That was
Antique
about 6
Roadshow.
o'clock.
So I would be away on my computer probably.
Well, see, I didn't have a computer. I was too young. I didn't get a computer until I was like 17. Like, come on, there's a few people in here tonight. What was the staple diet of 1970s Sunday nights? What was on the TV? I mean, obviously, when it was the Snooker World Championship, you had the snooker final.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, what other stuff on a Sunday? You had Ski Sunday. Was it David Vine that did Ski Sunday? I think it was.
He did, yeah. And I just realised when they were talking about ABBA during the Eurovision Song Contest, he did the Eurovision Song Contest as well.
David Vine did it.
David Vine did
really?
it.
Aye. And it's the same way. What the hell was her name again? Not Esther Ranson. Noel Edmonds and somebody else actually did Top Gear. They were the first people to do Top Gear.
Yeah.
Before Jeremy Clarkson.
Have you seen he's been knocking about this week as well?
Jeremy Clarkson?
No, Noel Edmonds.
Oh, no. What, on my channel or somewhere else?
No,
has he been ousted?
he's out he's wandering about the UK because he lives in New Zealand now. Because there was a picture taken of him last week, and he was having an ice cream, and he was wearing two different shoes.
Is that a fashion statement, or had he quite literally just not put the wrong shoes on?
I don't know, but that's something I've done. It's like the most embarrassing thing I've ever done.
I've put odd socks on, but I can't say I've ever put the incorrect shoes on. Like somebody, in fact, Craig's saying there, spitting image. Yeah, spitting image. We can't forget that. That was that not 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock? So you knew when that finished.
10 till 1:30, and then the South Bank show.
Oh, wasn't it? See, that was a wee bit too highbrow for me. I did. Really, I have to say, I did like the. And somebody's going to tell us what the tune was, what it was called. You can still see it, and you got the electrical, whatever it was, the little spark thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Were you a fan of Spitting Image?
Oh yeah. Well, we watched it like everybody else did. Yeah, of course we did.
It was one of these weird things. I mean, I think it was just I mean, I think did it not make a brief comeback?
Yeah, it was on BritBox.
But it never really kind of did it the second time round. But yeah, it was. I mean, Margaret Thatcher obviously took an absolute hammering, but it's quite funny because I think Steve Coogan, I think he did a lot of the voices.
He did, yeah. He did. Well, him and Harry Enfield did the most of them, didn't they?
That's right. The guy in my work does a really mean Steve Coogan, who's brilliant. Yeah. Right, I've got a question, Steve's Gaming. Evening, Steve. A question for Bill. There we go. I'll let you answer that one.
A question for me.
Can you see it on the screen? I've highlighted it on the screen. Can you not see that?
I'm looking at YouTube now. I can see this. What's this?
Oh, right, yeah.
Please tell us how much you love the Great Space Race. Who's this? Is this somebody I know?
Don't think. What is that? Is that a trick question? Is there something you want to tell us?
I don't know. I think I must have mentioned somewhere that I had bought the Great Space Race for about, was it 99p or £2 or something? Because I'd heard it was really bad. It had gotten really badly reviewed, and then I took it home and played it, and then I just taped over it. Was
it not? I never actually saw it. Was it a text adventure or something, or was that any arcade adventure?
It was like Elite, but without the flying around. You basically turned up at planets and you would try and trade with various characters on these planets, but the whole thing was written in BASIC. So you could actually break into it, I think, and you could change some of the you could change the lines if you wanted to. But yeah, it was awful. Thanks for reminding me of that, by the way.
Yeah, well, so Dale's saying there that's a 20-second answer, so they're obviously in it, mate. No, I can't remember. I can't remember. I mean, I remember the adverts. Was that based on something like a film or something? The Great Space
It wasn't. No,
it was just.
They had just. I think they probably just spent a lot of money putting adverts in all of the magazines, saying that this game was going to be the greatest, the next biggest thing. And
yeah.
It wasn't. They even spent money. Did you even see the box? It was like, it was one of those plastic molded ones that you opened up like an old video case.
Clamshell type thing.
But it was twice the size of what you would have a videotape in. It was massive.
Ah, right.
And there was like a book in it, I think, as well, to describe the story. Do you remember when you used to get books along with your games?
Yeah. I know. No, you don't get anything. You get a code. You get a download code if you're lucky.
You get a code. That's it. Yeah.
Aye. I don't remember that one, but it's interesting because Colin Jones was asking a question from for the Waffle. What was the most overhyped game for the 8 and 16-bit platforms? Well, you've just kind of mentioned that. I mean, I do remember, and obviously it did work because whilst I never actually played the game, I do remember seeing the adverts for it constantly.
Well, it's got to be that and Rise of the Robots, hasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, Rise of the Robots. Is Rise of the Robots? Is it really as bad as people make out? Because it does crop up time and time again, saying it's the worst game ever. I mean, let's be honest, it is not the worst game ever. It's far
not
from
that
being
it's
the
bad.
worst.
It's just that it didn't live up to the expectations.
Yeah.
I think the SNES one is probably the best, the most playable. I'm not going to say the best version. It's probably the most playable.
Least pish. Yeah.
The least pish version. Oh, do you like my T-shirt, by the way?
Can you clip? What's it? Can you clip your dog?
No, it's can I clap your dog?
Oh. Yeah, that's a euphemism for something up here in Scotland. Aye. Can your mom have clapped her dog? Anyway. Yeah, I mean, Rise of the Robots. I do remember. I remember reading that pretentious pile of wank that was the Edge magazine. You didn't work in the Edge magazine by any chance, did you? No. No. Did you ever read the Edge magazine?
We didn't really. Even though we were in the industry, we didn't really read it because we knew that it was just like they would go for the hype and they would over review things that didn't deserve it. The only thing that we bought Edge for was the jobs page.
Is that right? Was there a job? Did advertise jobs?
Oh yeah, they used to have jobs in there. Yeah, in fact, it was an Edge magazine that there was a vacancy for 3D modeling and rendering in a little company in New Zealand, sorry, that was working on this movie called Lord of the Rings.
Obviously died without trace, that one, aye.
Yeah, I know. I would have been, obviously I had commitments in this country, but if I didn't, I would have been straight over to that, given half a chance.
What kind of year was that then? I mean, I think is Edge magazine still out? I don't know. I mean, I know.
I don't think so. This might have been 97, 98.
Aye. Yeah, I mean, it was still, that was, so the PlayStation had been out for a couple of years at that point. But yeah, my memories of Edge magazine, that's the thing is, it was pre, and maybe for somebody who's 20 years old, they'll think, why did you buy magazines? Before the internet existed, and Bill and I are old enough to know what life was like before the internet. It was the only way you knew if a game was any good was by reading a review of it, although, as we know, some magazines, I'm sure they did take backhanders to give decent reviews, or your mate bought it, you thought that's particularly good. There was no other way to find out about it. But yeah, the
I
Edge
think
magazine.
it was more to do with if you don't give us a good review, we'll withdraw all our advertising from your magazine.
Do you think that, well, sorry, I'm asking a rhetorical question. Do you think that actually went on?
Of course it did.
Aye. I know.
Think how many Ocean adverts were there in like your Sinclair or Crash or anything like that? So if they completely trashed one of their games, they would have just said, right, well, we'll just take all our advertising out.
Yeah. And I think that's where, I mean, like Zap and Crash magazine, and was it Amtix, I think it was, which is like the Amstrad version. I don't think they gave a shit about things like that. They were the guys that were in control. I mean, I've been lucky enough to speak to Gary Penn, and I've spoke to Gary Liddon, who both worked on Zap magazine, and they had the power, because I mean these were guys who were gamers. They were gamers, and you know they told it exactly as they thought, as they saw it, and they knew that they had the ability to basically ruin a company. I mean, I think, was it Gary Liddon mentioned that they gave, I can't remember what it was. There was some company brought out a game and they absolutely panned it, and he said it was justified because it was absolutely a pile of shit. And then the guy brought out another game and they just crucified it. And apparently, like, the guy either phoned or wrote a letter to some saying, just to let you know that, you know, I'm giving up the industry because of your, you know, reviews. It's just, I'm finished, you know, and I'm finished in the industry. And I remember Gary saying, well, you know, they did feel a wee bit kind of slightly kind of guilty, but they thought, well, no, fuck it, because at the end of the day, they knew that kids were, you know, they saved up their pocket money, whatever, and spending, I don't know what it would be. I mean, £8.95 if you're a Spectrum owner, or if it was. If you were a Commodore 64 owner, you paid £2, which Gary Bracey asked him, I says, why was that the case? He says, because we could. He says, there was no other reason that they charged Commodore 64 owners more for the same game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, magazines back then, but yeah, I'm sure there was examples of games getting great reviews.
Magazines were brutal back then.
Aye.
Even like the music magazines were really like actually going and verbally attacking people. You know, like I remember seeing it's like Smash Hits used to be awful. It was an awful bitchy magazine. They used to have a go at everybody. And I remember there was a picture of Chaka Khan, because I was watching Top of the Pops from like years ago, and it triggered a memory of, I saw a picture of her on this magazine, and it referred to her as Thunder Thighs in print. and every fortnight they would have a go at Simon Le Bon, saying he can't sing, he's crap, he can't sing. It's like you wouldn't be able to get away with that now.
And I think they used to kind of make a bit of a fool, because all the Duran guys are all beautiful looking guys. They were all like models, and he was a bit kind of chubby sort of thing, you know. And it's the same, but there again, even in like nowadays, what the hell were they called? Oh, Little Mix. Yeah, there was like the fat one, and she got belittled and all that kind of stuff, you know. It's like, fuck, unless you're pencil thin. It's funny. I was on Facebook earlier on, and you know, it's just you get inundated with adverts, and there was this, as you do, you see I'll click on that, and it was like before and after of, like, you know, it was like losing weight, and the after was this like skinny looking girl, and I thought, she looks a damn sight more attractive when she has a wee bit more weight in her, you know what I mean? But that's maybe an age thing. That's maybe an age thing, mate, you know. But aye, so anyway, the football, you a football fan, Bill? That's all.
Not so much.
Not
so much.
Yeah, I mean, do you support a team at all?
Well, a few actually. I've got my Scottish team, which is Rangers, because that's how I was brought up. My southern team is West Ham. My northwest team is Liverpool, and my northeast team is Sunderland.
You're going to got all bases covered, innit?
Yeah.
So, will you be watching watching any of the Euro? I was going to say Euro '96. Christ, yeah, Euro 24. Bloody hell, that would be 28 years ago.
I think I probably will be. Yeah, I think I'll be watching that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a football fan in the slightest. I mean, I would never ever sit and like, oh, I think I'll watch Arsenal versus Spurs.
No,
Not interested, but
if
I'll
it's the
certainly
World Cup
watch.
or the Euros, I'll watch that.
Aye. And we'll obviously, you can guarantee we'll lose the first game. The second game we'll win 4-1. Or we'll maybe no. In fact, no. What'll happen? We'll get gubbed in the first game. The second game we'll draw 1-1, and then we have to win the next game by 3 clear goals, and we'll be 3-0 up with 5 minutes to go, and then it'll end up being like 3-2.
No, I'm guessing here you're talking about Scotland.
Of course, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But
England will get to the semis, and then they'll get beaten penalties by Germany, obviously.
I've completely lost touch with Scottish football. I don't even know who the manager is. I don't know who would be in the team. I just know nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, because a couple of the guys, the company that I work for, they were up from Swindon for the last couple of days, and I took in. You remember the Panini, and I think a Panini is
The sticker albums.
Sticker album, yeah. It's now a roll that you get in some overly priced street food. You get like pepperoni and cheese in it. That's a panini. But yeah, back in the day, panini was a sticker album. Yeah, it was. It's. I suppose when you think about it, what were they? It was like the equivalent of. I don't know. I was going to say like Lego. It's not like Lego. They give you a book that's completely empty, and you've then got to buy overpriced stickers.
They still do them now, don't they? I've seen. Well, you go in and you buy like a big mass of them, or you get a magazine that's got loads of them. You didn't like go out and you'd get 3 and you got a bit of chewing gum, and you'd probably have one there'd be one that you didn't have, and then you'd end up swapping the other 2 with your mates. And that chewing gum was like you bent it and it snapped.
It's like you dropped it and it would shatter.
It just shatter like glass, yeah.
Take your eye. That's right. What the hell went on with that? Bloody hell, I've still got a confession. I back in primary school, I only needed about 5 stickers, and it was I can still remember the name. A guy called Kevin Keelan. He was the Norwich goalkeeper, and this wee guy, he had, and like he gave me his, and then my mate got, and then you'd put aside the ones that you wanted, and I saw Kevin Keelan, and I went got, and I put aside a couple, and I pocketed it. Yeah, which wasn't it? It was yeah. I can't even remember who it was, but I'm not proud of that. But anyway, I've got Panini 1978, which was a vintage year for Scotland, Argentina, and also Panini 1979. And
did you not have the football cards?
I
remember having like a big stack of these cards with like all the players from all the teams like Aberdeen and Dundee United and all that.
I wonder what happened to them. I bet my mum flung them out.
Yeah, and I also remember having little silver coins that had like the players on them. I think you got them when you bought petrol from Esso.
I just
you get a little coin.
You might be right.
But I remember the cards more than the stickers.
And it didn't. I think it was blank in the back. It had a picture of them, and like, of course, the Scottish guys' their hair was like that because it was windy. None of this nowadays. When you get the football match, they kind of go like that, and they kind of walk into shot with their arms folded like that. Yeah, and it had their name in it.
I think I had about 4 or 5 Alan Hansons.
Aye.
And his brother as well. I seem to he's just come to mind. He had a brother as well, John. And then there was all the Souness and Dalglish and all of them.
Actually, that's when we had a team, and that's why we had a good team, because for Liverpool, you had Alan Hansen, you had Kenny Dalglish, you had Graham Souness. He played for Liverpool. Was it Alan Kennedy, or no? He played for Aberdeen. And then for Man United, you had Martin Buchan, Joe Jordan, Gordon McQueen. You had all these, and then these guys, they were playing for like the cream of, what was it called? The Division 1, I think it would be back then. And then we're upsetting a few people because we're talking about football, and we're talking about Scotland here. So that's not football. But these guys were shit hot, and that's why we had a good team. But the point I was going to make is, I could probably name you the Scottish squad from 1978. Could I name a single player now? Nope. Don't even know who the manager is either. So
no, that's where I am at the moment. I don't know.
Anyway, before we lose viewers, I think there's a few questions. Right, there's one from Dale. I'll just let you read that.
God, I need to read this one. What? Did you ever see development kit? Actually, we did develop some stuff on the N64, but the company went down before we could get anywhere near like getting it to a playable state. It was when we were working on PS1, and we'd come up with, I think the thing about it was we had these we were using a lot of vertex coloring, because you could only have little tiny textures on it.
Sorry, mate, what's vertex colouring?
Oh, when you've got like when you've got a 3D model made up with all the vertices, you would pick the colour of the verts, and it would transition the colour across.
Oh, right. So you had like black and then white. It would go and it would.
So you could do black and white textures, but then you would use the colours of the vertexes to colour it and make it like go from orange to green.
Right.
It's used a lot on the N64 on stuff like landscapes and the ground and all that. You'll see it. It's quite easy to spot.
What was Guriad shading? That was a kind of buzzword at the time. Guriad shading. What was that?
Guro, I think it was. Yeah, that was just having just a basic texture and a highlight, a specular highlight.
Right.
And the light would come down. So if you had a spherical object, it would look spherical rather than just flat.
Mm-hmm. So you never actually. So you worked on a game for the N64. Why did it not get released? Or you said the company that you were writing it for?
The company. The company folded before we even got any funding to do it. I think it was the end of. I think we just released a game, and then we were sort of waiting for the next one to start. So we had like the N64 stuff there, and we were building this sort of prototype, and it just stopped.
So who? Obviously, it wasn't Ocean at that point. Who were you working for then? Would it
be? That would have been Telstar. I think Gary was in charge of Telstar as well at that point. Gary Bracey.
Oh, was he? Oh, right, yeah.
I think he went to Telstar. I think the guy who was like the main programmer, it was his company. He was a good programmer, but he had a shithead for business. He had about 2 companies that both went down as soon as the product was released, and then wasn't able to follow up, and then he would open another company. And I'm like one of these people that'll be like, if somebody wants me to help them out, I'll help them out, even though I know that something's going to happen.
Yeah, you may not get paid or whatever. Yeah.
So I was there for like 3 redundancies with his companies. So yeah, not great, but you know, it's all experience, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's always a big thing about like I've spoke to quite a lot of the guys that were there at the very beginning. Yes, Jeff Minters and like Andy Walker, who I don't know if you recall, you remember Task Set Software. They did like Seaside Special and Super Pipeline and all that. They were only around for a very short space of time, and
I know
you know
Super Pipeline, but I've not heard of any of the others.
yeah. I mean, they only really done about maybe 6 games or something. I think primarily for the Commodore 64, but I mean, they disappeared very quickly, and I mean the guys themselves were like really enthusiastic. They were fantastic programmers, but just what you said there about that guy, Andy admitted, he says, didn't have a brain for business. You know, we were like nerds. We wanted to write games to play, and then when when things changed, then obviously companies like Ocean, who were owned by obviously guys that weren't gamers, they were businessmen, and that's why obviously companies like Ocean kind of survived. And
I know, and I know
uh,
people sort of deride these people, these business people, but
of
you need them. You need
course you
them
do,
to
yeah,
go out
yeah,
and like push the product, because without them, we'd just be making games that nobody sees.
yeah. I know it's interesting. I saw on Facebook. You may know this person. There's a guy called Mark Kale. I think he worked for System 3, was it? I'm sure it was System 3.
The
Mark Kale.
name rings a bell.
Yeah, CALE. And his profile picture is him leaning on his Ferrari. And then I kind of went into his profile, had a look at, and he's got all these supercars and all that. It's like, wanker. But anyway, yeah. But these guys obviously knew what they were doing, you know what I mean? But
Mm.
I mean, I think probably one of the richest guys from that era is it Jez San? Remember Jez San?
Again, I know the name, but
He
he must have invested well.
Starglider. He programmed Starglider, Starglider 2. But where he obviously made his money was when he did Super Star Fox for the NES, the SNES, and then he
No, he
did
must have
that.
got a good. He
Oh,
must have wet his beak quite well with that one.
because I think his company, Argonaut Software, they were called. His company invented the little chip that you had to that kind of helped to kind of supplement the actual game. But yeah, he's obviously, and then there's guys like Jeff Minter, who he's never, I don't think he's poor, but he's certainly not made a lot of money when you consider that he's out of probably anybody from the early days. He was making games for the ZX81, and he's making games for like, he's still making games, but he's always maintained he's never in it for the money. And I think, as you say, if you want to become a serious business, you need accountants, you need businessmen that
Yeah, you
know.
need both. You're either going to make money or make games. You can't. One person can't do both.
Yeah. Sad, but yeah. So what was your? I mean, so yeah. So going back to Colin's question, what was the most overhyped game for the 8 and 16-bit platforms? I mean, you were talking about that, the Great Space Race. Another game that got a lot of hype, if you read magazines at the time, was what no, wait a minute, what the hell was it called? I was going to say Elite. I wouldn't know what Elite is. Eureka, that's what it was. Eureka, do you remember that?
Eureka.
You never remember
Never
it?
heard of it.
I'll need to do a quick Google for it. Eureka it was a sort of multi-part adventure game by Domark Software, and it was like wee mini games. In each section, like you had to find like a word or a letter, and then when you'd completed it, you had like, I don't know, 10 letters, and you had to rearrange it, and then you'd send it to the company, and the first person to solve it got like, I think it was £25,000. And
Never heard of it.
yeah, Eureka. Oh, aye, it's you were too busy programming games at that
What
point.
system was that on?
It was on the Commodore 64 Spectrum. Hang on, Eureka. that's not the one I'm thinking it is. Wait a minute, Eureka. Hang on. Eureka Domark software. I'm trying to find a picture of it. I mean, in fact, I'm just going to share the screen for a second. Present, share screen, window. There we go. Yeah, it's. I mean, that was that. I don't know if that's going to get any bigger. That was an example of what one of the levels looked like. It was a bit shit.
What year was this? I've never seen this.
I'm thinking. There you go. There's Eureka there. I mean, fucking awful. I'm thinking 1980. I'll tell you what. Let's just for shits and giggles. Let's
Have you got it there?
I'll have it. Yeah. Wait a minute. Like, I'm going to shut that down. Up. Spoiler. Just like you see all the questions there. Hang on a little second. Yeah, it was one of these games where you could the winner won a prize, and it was like that. Do you remember the company? Oh bloody hell, Mel Croucher. He was Pie Man. Do you remember Pie Man games?
Yeah. What were they called?
Yeah, well, it was Pie Man. Was this? It was this infernal creature. It was. I don't know what it was with early Spectrum mascots. You had Horace, who was like this ugly thing with big voids for eyes. Pie Man looked like a penis. Just as well, they never got the Spectrum guys to do like design Sonic the Hedgehog. But
one of the first games that I ever rented was that Groucho one.
That was yeah, Groucho and Pie Man. Groucho does actually appear in it. Like, wait a minute, I'm going to right, hang on. I'm going to remove that, and then I'm going to share the actual screen. Remove that. Stop screen. And then I want to present. Let's have a look. Share screen. Entire screen. There we go. All right. Share entire screen. Right. Let's have a look for Eureka. There's a search thing about that. If I could just type in EU. How do you spell Eureka? Can you see it there? It's there. Eureka. Yeah. Right. Yeah, 1984. Different versions.
And it was an adventure game.
Yeah, that's
what's a text adventure.
Can you see that? Can you see these screenshots there?
Yeah.
I mean, that was. Hang on, I'll move it. There you go. That was kind of what that was like. What the game looked like. You had to solve. In fact, let's have a wee look and see if I've got the document. Here we go. All right, wait a minute.
God, you've got plenty of garbage on there, haven't you?
I have. You the amount of shit that I've got in this. Right, wait a minute.
Oh my God. Oh, there we go.
Wait a minute. I'm going to. How do you rotate? Is that rotate? Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, that's even worse. There we go.
Right. Can you see that? There we go. That'll tell you all about it.
Ian Livingstone.
You've heard of him.
It's not Ian Livingstone. Ian Livingstone, is it?
What did he go on to do? Ian Livingstone. Did he? Yeah, it is. It is Ian Livingstone.
He went on to be later on to be one of my bosses.
Is that right?
He was something to do with IDOS eventually, wasn't he?
I know he has been in. I don't remember him looking at that with his big fetching moustache.
The thing I remember about him was I'd heard his name, but when he was supposed to come and visit our office, and one of the other guys got really excited because he had written the books, the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Well, that would be him, because I mean, you can read there. There you go. He designed a 5-part time race adventure game linked by Action Arcade. Add a booklet with cryptic clues and dramatic art. Offer a £25,000 prize and a journey to Hungary to program in secrecy. But now it's done. The race is on. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. So that was it. I mean, it's you had Dr. Majid has convinced NASA of this, and he knows where the missing pieces are. Each piece was catapulted into time and has been traced prehistoric Europe, one in Rome, Italy, Arthurian Britain, wartime Germany, and the modern Caribbean. But yeah, that was a thing, and it quite clearly they enticed people in by the prize money, because, as I said, the games themselves are just.
Did anyone actually win it?
Apparently, somebody did. In fact, let me just have a quick wee look. Eureka Domark winner. I'm sure it was one. There we go. Right, there's Wikipedia, which is always factual. There we go.
100%.
When the prize was originally published, Dolmark promised a prize of 25,000 to the first player. It's all blah 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 blah. The prize was eventually won by Matthew Woodley, a teenager from the UK. Woodley would eventually go to work for Dolmark before blowing a fortune on drugs and women. Right, okay. So he actually went on to work for the company. Right, I can see what's happened there. They're like, listen, mate.
We've only got 5 in cash, but we'll give you a job if you want.
Aye, we're happy to give you $5,000, but you say you got 25, and we'll give you a job. If you want the 25, then you're not getting a job, mate. But anyway, aye. So there you go. About 50,000 copies of the game was sold for the Commodore and the Spectrum. Yeah, I'll take that off now. But yeah, that was a game that was hyped beyond belief, and it was
It couldn't have been that much because it completely went past me. I'd never even heard of it.
Well, you are a wee bit younger than me enough. I mean, you actually playing games back then. Or were you too busy fiddling with your joystick and knocking graphics up?
Excuse me. What year are you talking about?
Well, that was 1984. It came out.
Oh yeah, of course I was. Yeah, I was getting my cassettes from secondary school with all my copied games on it by then.
Aye. I mean, I think that was. If you were just copying games, there's a good chance that you probably, because that game was so bad that I remember getting that. I think I had the opportunity of getting it. Like, not interested. You would never really copy. Well, I suppose you would copy some multi-load games, but it was absolutely pish. I mean, I think when it came out, it got like 50-odd%, if that. But is there any other like 8-bit or 16-bit game apart from Rise of the Robots that you remember kind of eagerly waiting for, and then when it came out, you're like, oh god, this is shite?
No, I think those are probably the two that spring to mind. I've not been really heavily depressed by a game ever that I wanted to take it back to the shops. No, I would say it's probably those two. Although we did at that company that I was working for, which was Time Warner Interactive. We got now, what was the name of this game? It was a puzzle game where you had a cube and you had to collect colors. It was called Endorphin. And they said that it was, if you played this, it was like being on drugs because it would set off endorphins in your brain and it would make you high. That was a bit of a disappointment.
Was this a 90s chance, was it?
It didn't work. It was a fun little game, but it didn't get you high.
So was there never a game that the sequel was going to come out, a game that you loved, and it was like, oh, there's going to be a sequel that came out and it just didn't really hit the mark?
No, I can't really think of any.
I mean, I suppose when you think about it, there wasn't. I'm saying something now, and I'm probably talking complete bollocks, but there wasn't. There was a lot of games. In fact, I would probably say that most games didn't have sequels. I mean, I was going
to say that. I can't remember. I can't think of it. Well, Renegade and Target Renegade, and obviously, Renegade 3. There you go. There's one. Renegade 3.
Is that as bad? I've never played it. Is it as bad as
I was
people make
there
it?
for the development of that game. I saw it getting made, and it confused us.
What?
Why is Captain Caveman running about with like a T-Rex, and why is he fighting the guy from Renegade?
So did you actually witness games getting made, and you're thinking, "Fucking seriously, what's?" And did you speak up, or did you just, it was just a job?
Well, no, I think with that one, I think Gary meant well. He wanted to have like the Renegade character going through different time time zones, like prehistory and all that. I mean, it could have been, if it was executed differently, it would have been better, but it was just not. I mean, obviously Andy and Ivan, who worked on it, we would like walk past to the kitchen, and we'd see this stuff going on, and we'd be like, why? You would just talk amongst yourself, because you wouldn't actually want to go up to them and say, what the fuck are you doing, man? You know,
yeah. How would that have gone down? Like, would you have been like reprimanded or something by like your line manager for speaking up about something like that?
No, it would probably have ended up in fisticuffs or something like that. We sorted that sort of thing out ourselves. There was no HR. But yeah, I mean, God, I've seen. I was there when Lemmings was brought in. I was there when, in fact, when I started, we were getting regular builds of that Where Time Stood Still. So I was seeing that getting developed. I was seeing like other games that were getting brought in, and it's games now that you would like mention and go, oh yeah, that's like a pretty decent game. But we were seeing it getting, like, over the weeks, getting developed and getting improved on.
Mm-hmm. So you never really worked in many Commodore 64 games, if at all, did you? Was it primarily the Spectrum and Amstrad?
Just that one, just Tucky. That was the only one that I'd ever worked on. Yeah.
That's. Oh, I think I think that's actually, if I remember right, I think it's actually a pretty good conversion.
I'm sure I've mentioned this to you because you've played it on your stream.
Yeah, I'll probably have. I mean, I love it. It's one of these games that a lot of people don't know about. Talking, never heard of it, but it's actually a really good, fun game to play.
It was just because I had finished working on whatever I was working on at the time, and Gary said, "Right, we need some backgrounds for this game on the Commodore 64. Will you do it?" And I said, "Well, I've never worked on the Commodore 64. I don't know what you do." "Oh, it'll be fine. We'll give you the editor. John Meegan's written this editor. He'll show you how it works. And we've got a video cassette of somebody playing it, and you just do the levels." Like, right, okay. And that's how it was done in about 3 weeks to a month, I think.
And was it a question of you, when you say it, you said a video, a tape cassette? Was it a video tape with somebody playing it?
Yeah,
and that was
video recorder in front of the arcade machine.
And then you'd pause it, and then you'd try and replicate.
Yeah, it's like zzz, when you're pausing it, you can't even see properly.
That's insane. So did Ocean never? I mean, obviously, Ocean were one of the probably the I would imagine that they were certainly the biggest 8-bit company in the UK, and then they were pretty big for quite a long time with the 16-bit as well. I mean, did they not bring like arcade games in for you to kind of play? And
oh yeah, they did. I mean, we had a guy who worked in the sort of hardware side who would get the arcade board, just the circuit board, and he would like connect it up to, like, we had Arcade Alley in the back, which was just a load of monitors with all the sides and the back missing, so you could see the full tube, obviously, health and safety and all that. And he would just connect these up. So when I was there, they had Operation Wolf set up with the gun. Mark Jones has just uploaded onto YouTube the video of Keith Chegwin when he visited Ocean. And
oh really? Oh wow!
And I'm there. I'm there teaching Cheggers how to play Operation Wolf.
You're on the video. I'll spare you for watching that just now, but yeah, I'll need to, did that literally just come up there just now?
It's been there for a while, but he's uploaded he's up-resed it and made it look all sort of shiny compared to what it used to.
Mark Jones, because Mark Jones used to work for Ocean, did he not?
He worked there for a bit, yeah.
He
left and then he came back for a few months and then he left again.
Mm-hmm.
So the other arcade machines that were there was like stuff like Typhoon, and was it Rygar? What was that one that was the guy with the app?
Side on, yeah.
All of that was there, but then they would start to bring in, like when I was there, Chase HQ, which was the full thing with the seat and everything. So that was in for a few weeks, and then that disappeared.
Oh, is there a seat? I didn't realise. I've only ever played a stand-up version of Chase HQ. I didn't realise they had a sit-down version as well, like Outrun.
Yeah,
and
they did.
Did it have like hydraulic at all?
It didn't move, no.
No.
I hope it didn't, because I was sat on the seat with my pad and I was trying to draw these little cars and things as they were going past, because we didn't have access to a video recorder, a video camera, really.
I mean, you just take for granted now. You can take your mobile phone and go click, and then you can just zoom in and you see the expanded sprite, and right, I'll do that. It was all.
I was telling somebody the other day that when we were there and we needed any reference for any sort of guns or anything, we had to go across the road to the library and get a book out, and that was our internet.
It was. That's it.
Yeah,
I know. It's crazy. So Chase HQ. I mean, obviously that's that's your kind of. I was going to say it's your finest moment. I mean, it's the game that every kind of. I mean, and I'll be honest. I mean, I wasn't a specky guy, but Chase HQ on the spectrum it's a work of genius, both technical. It looks the part. It plays brilliantly.
It's not my doing.
But you did the graphics. I mean, it was like the perfect storm. Everything came together for this one game. What's the game you're sort of most proud of from a sort of graphical point of view? Because was it just graphics you did? You didn't not just graphics. That's fantastic what you do, but you didn't do any coding or anything. So really,
no. It was it'd probably be that or Batman the movie, I think.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and they're both similar types of games anyway. There wouldn't be one without the other now.
Yeah. What versions of Batman the movie did you work on?
Amiga and ST, the 3D sections.
That must have been. Oh, of course, you did the. So and I still think it's incredible. The second level where you're in the Batmobile and you fire out the hook. So you did the graphics for like the Amiga version of that. Yeah, I mean that's.
Yeah, I did the Batmobile and all the stuff on the road.
Aye, I mean that's.
The thing about that was, we didn't have any reference material for what the Batmobile looked like, so I was doing everything else. So I had like the things going past in buildings in the background, and Gary's like, "We got the Batmobile in yet?" I'm like, nope, we don't know what it looks like. We had a picture in a magazine of Michael Keaton stood next to the door, and that was it. So I was like, "What do you want me to do? Just make the rest of it up?" So it was getting pretty close. It was getting to like 2 weeks before the deadline, and I just happened to go up to, there was a comic shop in central Manchester in a place called Hanging Ditch, which doesn't exist anymore since the IRA banned it.
No?
Huh?
Was that a pub? The Hanging
No,
Ditch?
it was an area of, it was like the Corn Exchange was up there. It got bombed in the 90s, and there was a little comic store there, and they had, where is it? So I bought it and brought it back to the office, and I was
That's
sat
the
like
actual
that.
one, is it?
I was sat like that, drawing it.
So you used a model that you bought in a shop to effectively put together the graphics for the game?
Yeah, right at the very last minute. Everything else had been done apart from that. So it was basically that.
Yeah.
That sort of
Incredible.
driving. Yeah.
I hope did you manage to claim that back in expenses?
Oh, there was no such thing as that.
So
It was very
yeah.
expensive.
So that must have been when you saw the the fact that that game was bundled with the Amiga, and the graphics. I think the graphics for that game were on the Amiga box. It was a big bundle, and I think from what I gather, I think that was the bundle that really put the Amiga on the map. I mean, you must have felt pretty proud seeing your game out there all over the place.
Yeah, but it didn't really affect us. I mean, Gary would come and say, "Oh, the Batman bundle for the Amiga 500 is going to be big." So it's like, yeah, it's going to be big for the company. We're just going to move on to the next project.
You weren't getting like 50 pence for every Amiga that was sold or anything.
No.
Aye.
So it didn't really affect us.
So I mean, it's in my job, I'll put together risk assessments and method statements and boring stuff like that. If somebody was to come back to me, I mean, I put a lot of work into them. If somebody was to come back to me in 20 years' time and say, "Oh God, were you proud of that method statement for manual handling?" Did you just look upon that as your work? So you were drawing graphics, and you passed it across to the programmers, and it became a game. And then you were like, "Oh, that's great. Next." Or did you get quite excited
No.
about? Did you get quite excited about the anticipation of a game getting released?
In the beginning, yeah, because then we would go out to places like WH Smith's or that, and to see the boxes out on the shelf. That was good. But once you've done that 3 or 4 times, it's like, I don't have to do that now. I'm too busy working on the next thing. But yeah, initially, yeah, seeing your first game out and like in the shops or advertised in a magazine, it was just like from some little kid who came out of the arse end of nowhere. It's like, it just blows your mind.
Did you ever like stand in John Menzies or whatever, and somebody would like be looking at you? I did the graphics for that game. Did you ever actually like name drop at all? Nah.
No. We went to a computer shop once in the Arndale Centre, and there was they were loading up Chase HQ on one of the Spectrums, and there was like loads of kids in the shop, and the title screen come up, and I was stood at the counter and I was watching it load and thinking, yeah, look at this. Didn't say anything, and this kid in front of me said, "Wow, that's one righteous loading screen."
Righteous.
I know.
Check him out. Obviously, wasn't Scottish or from
No.
Glasgow. Aye.
So obviously I didn't say anything. I just was like, right, come on, let's go. They might say something bad.
Oh, brilliant. Aye, so I mean, so once a game had been done, it was you were pretty much on the next thing then.
Yeah, pretty much. Because even if you didn't have a project, you were always helping out other people with what they were working on.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like you were sat around with nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just pure luck that you would go from. I quite often think how lucky I've been with just being in the right place at the right time, being with like Mike Lamb and the other people working on Wek Le Mans, and then moving on to
what did you do, Wek Le Mans as well?
HQ after that, yeah.
Aye, that again, the Spectrum version is actually good. The C64 one's awful.
And then moving from Wek Le Mans on to doing Chase HQ, and then when Chase HQ finished, moving on to do like the 3D sections in Batman. It was just like one stream. of like it was just like connected like it was meant to be, and you know, I was just really lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it must be. I mean, it must be galling for like an artist or a musician or whatever. I mean, like Rob Hubbard, obviously, is a genius when it comes to making music on the Commodore 64. And there's some completely fucking wank games that he put fantastic tunes to, but you know, the games themselves are awful. Was there any game, in your opinion, was complete garbage that you did the graphics for? You don't have
Loads.
to say anything because I know you're still pals with these guys.
Robocop 3, obviously. I keep banging on about how bad it is on the SNES. Another one that I did on the PC called Flesh Feast, a zombie game, which had quite high expectations, but look at it on YouTube. Oh dear.
What was that on the what system was that for?
PC.
Oh right, yeah.
Because at that point I was doing FMV, full motion video, and they needed somebody to do the FMV for this zombie game. So it was like zombies like ripping arms off and getting their heads smashed in with axes and all that sort of thing. And I thought, oh, this game must be really good. And then I saw it and thought, oh, yeah, it's really not good. Because what I ended up doing after the FMV was finishing was doing like, do you remember when you had Quake, you used to be able to do skins for Quake, where you'd have the front and the back of the character.
Yeah.
So I was just basically doing that for the sprites, like little men running about, and then they would get attacked by zombies, and there'd be blood everywhere. It's absolutely awful. In fact, you should have a look at it. It's so bad.
I might actually. I need to do a video from that. What was it? Flesh
Feast.
Right, I'm going to type that into my Word document. Right, I shall have a look at that because I love a bad game. I mean, so how did I can understand the enjoyment you got out of, like, you know, designing, like, I mean, I think was it a RoboCop loading screen, that was the first thing you kind of did, doing like 8-bit artwork and then designing little sprites and that. Then suddenly you're putting like skins around polygons and that. Did that not feel quite far removed from like being an artist? And did you enjoy that
Not
kind of
really. No, not
thing?
really, because it was still pixel art, really.
Yeah.
And the thing about it was that even though you were working on the Spectrum and the Commodore 64, the future was right in front of you because they had arcade machines that were like far superior. And it was like, oh, computers will never be able to catch up to what an arcade machine can do. So it sounds ludicrous now, but that's what it was. So you'd think, well, you know, in about 5 years, we'll have a computer that's as good as an arcade machine. And then, you know, the arcade machine's going to look like then? They're not going to exist. That's what's going to happen.
It's interesting now because obviously, yeah, arcades have always tried to be like one step ahead. And I mean, obviously, in the early days, arcades were head and shoulders above home systems, and it's probably only when, you know, the 16-bit machines came along, the Amiga and like the Mega Drive, etc. They could faithfully do a final fight and a gauntlet and all that kind of stuff. But then you then got, you know, your Tekkens and your Daytonas, and I mean, like, you know, I still remember like the first time I used to go. It was when going to the cinema was a big thing. I remember going to see like Terminator 2 at the big multiplex cinema through in Edinburgh, and it was like it was a night out. Oh, we're going to see Terminator 2 tonight. And I remember going into this thing, and they always had arcade machines, and there was this like double Daytona, you know, and it had the Sega music and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, wow, this is just something else. It's like you're never going to be able to play games like that at home.
No.
And then the PlayStation dropped and Ridge Racer appeared, and it was like, holy fuck. And then obviously 3D effects cards came out and technology kind of caught up. And now, I mean, if you go to a sort of an arcade now, it's full of like light gun games, you know, Time Crisis 16 and whatever it is.
Dance mats as well.
Yeah, and
You
it's
still have
exactly.
them in.
Aye, it's all about bigger and better, and then you can play like excuse me, you can play like a 2-player version of Space Invaders, but you're playing it on, you're sitting down and you've got this gun, and it's more about the experience rather than the graphics now. But yeah, systems have 100% caught up. So what I mean, what do you look at? Do you game at the moment, Bill? I know you do because obviously you and I talk a lot about these little mini handhelds and that kind of stuff. But do you actually sit down when your missus away to bed? Yeah, yeah. Is that your gaming, or do you game on like you got a console, or do you emulate at all?
I've got a Switch, I've got a PS4 Pro, and I've got my PC.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't game that much on my PC because, well, I don't know why. I've got a lot of games on there that I don't play.
That's the problem. That verifies the problem. We've all got too many
Was it
Steam
you I was
games.
talking to when we were talking about the new RoboCop game? And it's like, yeah, I played it, and then you go away for a couple of weeks, and then you're like, right, where was I? What was I doing in this? I mean, I bought Elden Ring. It was like something like 60 quid. And then I played it for about 2 weeks and I thought, right, you need to put a lot of time into this. So I went away, came back a couple of weeks later, didn't even know where I was, what I was doing. That's the thing about it. If you've got the time to put into them, then yeah. But I prefer to I've got like half an hour. I'll just have a quick game or something. And that's what these are absolutely perfect for.
Oh, they are. Aye. Yeah, and
So
what's your? I mean, what kind of games do you play? That I mean, have you played GCHQ in the Spectrum on that,
no.
or would you?
Would I? No.
Really?
No, I go back and go through the old arcade machines and look at stuff that I'd never even knew existed before.
Aye.
I mean, I found a Dungeons and Dragons arcade machine, which is
Oh yeah, it
it's
is.
like Golden Axe, but it's actually
Yeah,
got you buy potions and you do certain things.
I
It's
think.
like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, I think it was actually released by I can't remember, not Warhammer, whatever it is. It was actually, I think it was released by. I can't remember. If I've got any geeks in tonight, they'll be able to tell us. It was released by the company that made Dungeons
Oh,
and
Games
Dragons.
Workshop.
That's Games Workshop. I think it was. I'm sure it was made by them.
Yeah, there were two. They even brought out a sequel. It did that well. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been looking at stuff like that, and then if I'm at work and I'm going through YouTube and somebody mentions an obscure game, I'll go and have a look because I've never seen it. You know, there was like a 3D game that it was like an eye or something. It was one of the first 3D games where you had to go in and you had to go inside this environment and shoot things.
iRobot, was it an arcade?
iRobot, yeah.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, I wonder if that's on here. Oh yeah, it is. I'll give that a go. 5 minutes later, no, I don't like that. But it's all there. It's all there if you want to
Aye,
look at it.
it's insane. You know, if you could go back and talk to your 17-year-old self back in whenever it was 1985, 1986, and say, just to let you know, kid, in 30 years' time, you're going to have all your games, and it's going to be on one of these. See all these arcade games, every arcade in Blackpool, all the games,
Yeah,
they're all going to be on that, and every Spectrum game, Commodore 64
yeah.
game. You know, it's
And
insane.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you're going to sit at your computer and you're going to download a file that's got 5,000 Spectrum games on it, and you'll probably play about 3.
And you're going to have this thing called internet, which is like your computer screen, but you can talk to people. And what you're going to do is you're going to be able to send somebody a game. You're going to be able to electronically send them a game, and then they can then play it. So rather than getting on the bus, going into town, looking at all the games, thinking I'm going to buy that, hand your money over, get back in the bus, or go to McDonald's, get back in the bus, go home, load it up. You can just send the game electronically, like you did half an hour ago or whatever it was. You sent me a game. You know that's just mental.
I remember the guy that actually introduced me to the internet because we used to do bulletin boards where
That's
you would
right,
have
BBS.
your computer linked up to the phone line, and people would call in and take stuff off your computer. And I was using, I'd met this guy online, and he was like showing me various things. And then he was like, do you want to, I've got this thing called the internet. Do you want to have a look at it? And he sent me his login, and there was nothing there. There was fuck all there. I mean, there was Amazon when they just sold books. And it was
DVDs, yeah.
there was no adverts. There was hardly any shops. You know, like every shop has got a website. Just about everybody's got their own shop website. And you had all of these you had the news groups where you used to go and find like various dodgy things. We used to go on alt binaries and go and find this. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it was amazing. But then, you know, look at it now, it's just like full of advertising, and then now you've got social media, which is just horrible now. But back then, it was like if you showed the internet now to somebody who's using TikTok, they would not believe it.
Aye.
In fact, I was watching a video on TikTok of a guy who had a Spectrum Plus 2, and he had his daughter. She must have been under 10, and he gives her the cassette box of a Dizzy game, and he's like, "Here, go load that game up." And she's got the box, and she doesn't even know how to open it. She spent about 10 minutes like pressing the box. And he's like, "No, you have to get it. It's in the box." You ended up fast forwarding it because it was taking so long. And then she eventually got the tape out and like, right, well, put the tape in the machine. It's like, how does it go in? It was painful. They just didn't know how to work it.
And it's I mean, it's, you know, technology has advanced so fast. There's one of my mates actually did, I think it was maybe about 20 years ago, he did a little, he got asked by the BBC. They knew that he was like he's got this amazing collection of Commodore 64 games. He writes for like the news apps and that kind of stuff. So he's been in the kind of the scene for a long time. But he went to a primary school with a Commodore 64. And he says like, "Oh, does anybody?" Like, they were like 6 or 7. "Does anybody know what that is?" And they're like, "That's the keyboard." He says, "Where's the computer?" And they're going like that. They're looking. "Oh, we can't see." He goes, "That's the computer." "No, that's the keyboard." He goes, "No, that is the computer." And then they showed him a tape, and he says, "This is how you. This is how." I mean, even like the word load. I mean, I think the only way kids now know is load is like to load a file, load a save state, whatever. But yeah, to load a game, now you just you switch it on and you move along to the picture of it, and you press X or A on your gamepad and it loads. But yeah, it's mental when you see the technology is just it's gone mental. You know,
The first computers that we had at school, I can't even remember what the model was. It was massive. It was like that. It was massive, and it had a big key in it that you had to turn it on. I mean, somebody had a Spectrum somewhere down the line, but there was like half a dozen of these massive machines, and we didn't even know what to do with them. And then, obviously, when the BBC came along, and they all had to buy BBCs because they did.
Because that was Like we had. I mean, the first computer we had at school in high school was it was probably, I don't know if it was his computer. I remember being in, what was it, Modern Studies, and he was rabbiting on about something, and he started talking about computers, and we'd heard the word computer, but didn't really know what it was. We just knew it was like boffins with white coats and lights flashing. So I've got this computer, and he brought out what was a ZX81. I didn't know what it was, and he had the TV at the bottom end of the class, and he loaded up this game, and we got turns to go down to the front of the class and have a shot, and all it did was it would go and it would flash a word up, and then you would then have to try and type in the word, and that was it. I remember seeing that, and I was like, it didn't really phase me. It didn't bother me either positively or negatively. But then in geography, bizarrely, there was a Apple II computer, and we used to get shots like, what the hell was it called? Lemonade stand. It's like a little an early educational game where
All right.
you've got to decide how many spoons of sugar you're going to put into the lemonade, and it would tell you tomorrow it's going to be really hot. So you think, right, because everybody's going to be thirsty, they're going to want to buy lemonade, so we can cut back on the sugar, and we don't need as much advertising. And it was like that, and it would tell you you've made X amount of profit, whatever. And then, of course, the BBC became a thing, and an O grade in computer studies became a thing, which I did, and I passed it. And you had to program basic programs on the BBC. But yeah,
I mean, I
it's
had
better.
a ZX81.
Did you?
But I didn't realize that you could actually play games on it. I thought it was just for like writing these little programs that did like cool things. The first game that I actually saw was on the Spectrum was Ant-Attack. And once I saw that, it was like, I need to get a Spectrum because I want to play this and anything else. And then some kid sidles up to you and says, give us a quid and I'll get you a cassette with like 20 games on each on each side. And I'm like, right, okay then.
There's £5, eh?
So the first game I ever saw was Ant-Attack, but I think the first game that was ever on that first cassette that I got was like those text adventures. Like there was Adventure A and there was Adventure B, where you're on an island and you did something, but then you fast forward it and you find Jetpack.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Yeah, that was it. Life change.
That was a complete game changer. So she has obviously been a graphical musician. What do you? I mean, are you in awe of like? I've been playing. What have I been playing? I don't play many modern games. It's not because I'm 8-bit games are the best. I just don't like what you're saying. I don't really have the time, So picking up the RGB whatever it is and having a quick go of a Pico 8 game, whatever it is fantastic. But I've just finished Last of Us 2, and I've just started playing the reboot. Excuse me. The reboot of Resident Evil 4, which is by far and away my favourite, probably one of my favourite modern games. It's a phenomenal game. I've played it on the Wii, I've played it on the Xbox 360, GameCube, you name it, I've played it. I've completed it tons of times. And it's a reboot. They've added, it's the same story, but they've added like extra bits of levels, and the graphics are fucking mind-blowing. You're like, and you're in a bit, and you're like, and you're just kind of looking about. I mean, do you think are these guys more talented than you were, or is it different? Like horse? Is it different? Sort of, you can't compare it now.
No, you can't. Well, I'm doing that stuff now. I'm using Unreal and Unity as well, so I know how they do all that stuff because I do it myself. But it's just the engine is very forgiving. It does lots of nice things that you don't even need to bother about. It'll calculate all the lighting for you. All you need to do is put like an empty room with a couple of models in it and a light, and that's it. It'll do the rest for you. It'll make it look really, really good.
So if you, to try and simplify it, if you you've got a bare room, you put a box in the room, and then you say, right, I want the light to shine from there down. Can you then rotate it 360 degrees, and the program itself will calculate the shadow and all that?
It's all real time. It's so powerful now that it'll do it all real time for you. You don't even need to do anything. You would just make a box, put it inside. Well, you would make a room. You put your box in it. So where's the light going to be? There. What direction? That way. And it's already done the shadows because it's all within the system.
Right.
It's so much easier now. You
Mm,
don't have to calculate anything. Not what we used to do was, like I was saying about the vertex coloring, where you color the vertices of the model. That's how they used to do lighting. So if you had the light coming from here, you would color these vertices white, and then you would color these ones a little bit grayer, so it looked like the light was getting darker as it was going across. But now you don't have to do anything. It just does it all for you.
so would you almost say it's simpler now to do graphics for games than back in the early days? You'd having to program, get a model car, and draw it from like looking at it.
Well, it depends, because 3D is quite difficult for some people to get their heads around.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a little bit of time to get used to the idea, and luckily, when I was doing art, I was doing painting. I also did a bit of sculpture, so I had I had a bit more of that in my brain, so I could think, right, I can see the front of that. What is it gonna look like from the side? So I could see it like in my head what it would look like. And if you can get your head around the 3D, there's free software so you can build your own models. The engine's free. Yeah, it's not like you have to like go out and you have to buy all this stuff. I had to buy my original art kit for the Spectrum. I had to buy it myself. But these were you just download it and it's there. It's free. You can mess about with it.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube is full of tutorials. I mean, I've seen people like they're saying, right, I'm going to set myself a challenge. I'm going to write a game in 30 days with no gaming experience. And they managed to do it because it's all there for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
So
yeah,
it's quite
yeah.
easy.
No, it's interesting. I mean, one thing that I always think about if I was an artist nowadays, when you play any modern game now, whether it's a Call of Duty or whatever, like it's a kind of given. You're never going to get a game that goes, "Oh, the graphics are shit." There's plenty of shit games out there, but the graphics are generally going to be really top notch. eh, you're if you're in playing a survival horror game like Resident Evil 4, there are bits where you're just legging it as fast as you can because there's like a guy with a sackcloth over his head with a chainsaw chasing you, so you just leg it and you're running past all this stuff that somebody has obviously made, and it's just getting bypassed. You're running a straight line.
You've absolutely no idea. It's heartbreaking sometimes.
I can imagine that.
That
Yeah.
last company I worked for, I was doing the inside of what was it? I have to try and describe this without letting the cat out of the bag about what the game is. It was like on a planet, and you had like a room with computers and chairs and like all that sort of stuff that you would find in a sort of military office. So it had gone from the concept stage. So somebody had spent like probably a couple of days concepting this thing up as a painting. And it had been approved by the managers, and then it was handed down to me. And I built all the bits, like I built the tables, I built the chairs, built the computers, all the furniture and all that sort of thing. Got that approved, put it into the location where it was. It was all lit, all looked nice. It probably took 6 weeks, and then we got some kids in to play test it, and they just ran past it out into the next room. They didn't even look.
Aye.
So, I
Aye.
mean,
Aye.
I get paid either way. If they stop and look at the stuff, I don't care. But it would be nice if they did
It's,
stop and look around once in a while.
yeah. It's just it's just like window dressing kind of thing, and it's as you say, yeah, they're not even. And that's the thing about like modern games now. I mean, people talk about games being more advanced and all that kind of stuff, and I just argue the toss and say, nah, sorry. Impact, or we'll take Berserk for example. You've played Berserk, eh? Well,
Have I?
well,
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah,
yeah.
I
Well,
have. Yeah.
you've played Adventure on the Atari 2600. You know, you can't get a more basic game than that. You are a square, and you press up, you move up. You press left, you go left, right, up, down, and fire button will do something. Call of Duty, you move up, down, left, right, fire. But it's just it's represented rather than a square moving up. It's represented as in moving forwards. But the game, it's the same game: up, down, left, and right, and fire button. It's,
Yeah, I
you know,
used to play Call of Duty, but I never played it online. But when I played the campaigns, I would get really stressed. And playing games I thought was supposed to be fun and like calm you down, and I'm like, like
aye.
getting absolutely raging that I couldn't get past one bit to the point where I would just chuck it away, and then like I'd come back to it the next day, and then I just do it on the first go.
We were
Yeah,
talking about
that
that.
happens to me so many times.
We were talking about that. I'm convinced. I'm honestly convinced that there's something that goes into the program to make it easier. Because we were talking about that at work. Because I was playing. Yeah, I was playing Last of Us 2. And there was one bit, I can't remember exactly what it was. You get an onslaught of things, and I'm like, oh, fucking, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do it, and then and you get the blood, oh, fucking hell, start again, and this went on for an hour, and I'm like, I fucking had enough. It's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm turning it off. A lot of shite. Turn it off, and then about a week later, I'll give it one more go. Here we go. Fucking exit. Oh, I've done it. And that is
Yeah,
a fact. The
it's
girl I was talking to, she
awful
was
when
saying,
that
"Yeah, that
happens.
happens." You've just said the same thing.
Yeah,
It's,
it's
I
absolutely
don't know.
awful.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's just because you can't see the wood for the trees. You get so frustrated. You're getting agitated, whatever. But it is a fact. Sometimes just completely going away for the game and then coming back again, and it's you as you say, you'll do it first time. It's a bizarre.
I think it's the stress. It's the
Yeah.
stress because I've noticed this even when like with games and with playing guitar. If I can't do something, I can feel the stress and I can feel like the grip getting tighter. And obviously, when the grip gets tighter, then you're not
Aye.
doing you're not as agile.
Yeah.
The only time that I found myself really playing a game well was when I was playing something on the Switch, and I'd had about two whiskeys, and it was like I could see the Matrix. I was just like, whoa, 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 I was going along there, and you go
You
through
were
there,
in
and you
this
go up
one.
there, and then I tried to play it the next day, and I was like, oh God, no, what am I doing?
Where's the
It's the
whiskey bottle?
weirdest thing. It's been loosening up. You play it
Aye.
better when you loosen
Aye.
up because if
I
you
suppose
stress,
it's a bit like, I mean, I played golf. I've not played golf for about 30 years. I'm not interested, but it was absolutely bloody awful. But when there was people watching you in the first tee, you're like, you fucking hit it, and you miss the ball, and you're like, and then the more stress you get, you tense up, and the worse you get. And I suppose in some small way, it's a bit like that. But
is anybody
yeah.
still watching
There
that?
is. There's still 13 in at the moment. So yeah, it kind of goes up and down. But listen, Steve has got another question for you. Is there a Spectrum game that you wish you had wrote? Well, I mean, I know you didn't program. Is there a Spectrum game that you wish? Oh, I wish I'd got to work in that one at all.
Yeah, it was Chase HQ2
They never
because
asked you to work in it.
I was already on Batman, and it was outsourced to another
Right.
company. But when I saw it, I thought, oh, I wish I'd done that. We'd have made a better job of it, I think. So
I've not
so
got
the
a lot of.
short answer is Chase HQ2.
Yeah, was that a poor version?
Yeah, it wasn't as good. No, we didn't even. In fact, when I saw it in a magazine, I didn't even know that there was a Chase HQ2. So the fact that it come out, and I thought, well, surely they would have. I thought they would have asked me to do it, but no, I was already doing something else.
You'd have thought that. I mean, obviously the game was was. I mean, I don't remember because it was crap on the Commodore 64. I wasn't interested in reading a review because it was a magazine. There was no way I was going to buy a Spectrum magazine because I didn't have a Spectrum. But yeah, it was received with open hands. It was graphics are great, plays well. You'd have thought that the powers that be in Ocean would say, well, wait a minute, building a cracking job of this, blah blah blah, did a cracking job of the programming. We've got Chase HQ, right? We'll let them finish Batman, then we'll get them into Chase HQ. But was it a question that they had to strike where the iron was hot? And because I don't think there was a Chase HQ2 arcade machine. I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, it was Special Criminal Investigations, I think.
Aye, you're right. It had the gun, didn't it? That's what it was. Aye.
I don't think it was as big a deal as the first one anyway.
Yeah.
I think the gun was just, let's put a gun in it and make it a bit more interesting, which it didn't really. So it wasn't as popular as the previous one. I think that was mainly it. And it was like, we want to get these 3D sections of Batman done. So we're not going to spend time on a crappy ZX Spectrum game that hardly anybody's going to play, really.
I suppose
to somebody else.
Yeah, from Ocean's point of view, they probably made the right decision. They kept you on Batman, which was the right thing to do because obviously it went on to sell millions. Right, Dale Boy is asking, games that have survival and crafting in them, i.e. Planet Crafter, and games where you just move around like Vampire Survivors are very popular right now. Do you have a specific type of game that you like?
Yeah, I think I prefer the first lot. It's just, I prefer ones where you're sort of dumped into a place and you have to find your way around and you have to survive, basically. Yeah, that's more my kind of thing.
You were, funny. When I was talking to you a couple of weeks ago, I thought I need to get Bill onto the Nice and Nasty podcast. I thought, how have I not?
It was a memorable episode, wasn't it?
You did the bloody pilot episode. You were the very, very first person, yeah. We're now up to episode 20. Yeah, I've just recorded episode 20 on Tuesday. I've not put it out yet, but yeah, I've hopefully got. Who have I got? John Hare's going to come on, and Dave the Animal Perry bandana.
Oh, aye.
Yeah, he's promised me he's going to come on as well. So it'll be interesting because these guys have played a lot of games. But yeah, the podcast is doing really, really well. It's pretty good. I quite enjoy the format because you get to kind of just chew the fat for about half an hour, depending on how it's going, and then you get the other thing. So that's proven pretty well. But yeah, have you played Vampire Survivors? Do you know what that is?
Oh, I know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting game. It's almost a bit like, well, it's nothing like it, but Flappy Bird was this thing that just came out of, it was like a flash of lightning. It became this massive game, and to the point that the guy ended up deleting it because he was getting like hate mail. But yeah, Vampire Survivors, to anyone that doesn't know what it is, you play as this little character, and the graphics are a bit shit. I mean, the graphics aren't very good, and there's no fire button. You merely move and it automatically fires, and it's you never beat the game. Well, I don't think you can beat the game. It's all about it's like Robotron without being able to fire. It just automatically moves. But it was, in fact, it was Dale that showed me the game, and I thought this is shite. And then I started playing it, and before I knew it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I better get to my bed. And there's been various clones, but it's weird. I mean, to get a game that just really pulls people in. It's an interesting game. I said the graphics are pretty crap, but you get power ups and all that kind of stuff, and it's just about surviving. I don't know if you've watched any YouTube videos on it, like people getting onto like level 200. It's just absolutely insane.
I don't do a lot of gaming on my phone anyway.
I don't know if it's on the phone. I play it on I've got it on Steam. I mean, it was like £6 or something. It's not a lot. Right, Dale's got another quick question for you. Unlike the 80s, it appears today we live in a world where the public are the games testers. Well, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. They use the public to test games. Do you think that's a good business model? Do you think it's a bit sneaky on the company's behalf? Or?
Well, obviously they do QA beforehand because they wouldn't just release it without some sort of like quality assurance. But the fact that games are getting released before they're even finished is a bit of a problem. In some cases, it works. I mean, like Cyberpunk or No Man's Sky. When they
Yeah.
first came out, they were awful, but now, like so many years later, it's a decent game. But I guess it's that you get to a point, I guess, where you just run out of funding and you think, well, we need to release this now, and hopefully the money that we recoup from that, we can then build the game up and make it more what they wanted it to look like. I mean, that's the only thing I can see. I mean, nobody would maliciously release a game that wasn't finished, really.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to like run out of funding. It's happened to me so many times at places I've worked with where they've run out of funding,
And then
either like
does the game just get
legitimately
released?
or not legitimately.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you only
Aye,
got
I
a
mean,
certain amount of money. You only got a certain
aye.
amount of money, and once you've got that money, that's got to do you to the end of the project. So that's got to pay your wages and everything. It's not like you can go back and ask for more. That's what you get.
I suppose when you think about it, if you've got like they say like we've got 100 grand for graphics and music and bug testing, well, in an ideal world you would give 50 grand to you, 50 grand to the programmer, and the bug tester wouldn't get anything because it's going to be perfect. Or do you put 40 grand to the bug tester because bug testing doesn't you can't put advertising bug testing on a magazine, but so if you use all the money for just the development of the game and the programming of the game and then you release it and it's bugged to hell, it can just sort of make or break it, can't it?
Yeah, I think one of the other problems is that companies will get this money to work on a game, and they'll pay the programmers, they'll pay the testers, they'll pay the musicians and the games designers, and then the game's nearly finished, and they're like, oh shit, we need to market this now. We need to spend the same amount of money that we spent paying the staff for marketing it so that people know that it's out there. So there's going to be that's happened to me once where there was no money to market the game, even though it was done and it was finished, completely finished. The owner of the company actually didn't pay the rent on the building for 4 months to pay us to get the game done. And then we all get made redundant. The game was half finished on release. It just disappeared. So that's kind of the way it is. If you can get enough money to market it properly, then you can get the game out. Then you're fine. You need to cut that into your budget and make sure you've got enough to make sure people
And
know where it
that's
is.
we were talking about that earlier on about to be successful, not so much to make a good game, because you could make a good game that could completely dive bomb, but to actually be a successful software company, you need to be able to. It's not just about bringing in the best, musicians and graphic artists and that. It's you need to say, well, we need a wad of money to put it out there. Because I mean, every time you go into Steam, you see all these games, and they're like, I've never even heard of that, and I'll just give it a go, and you think, God, this game is fantastic. I've never heard of it. So it must be,
But
yeah, it's pretty
their
cutthroat. Like.
solution to that was, I will send some software keys out to some YouTubers, and hopefully they'll play it and like it and make a video, and that'll be our marketing. Doesn't work that way.
Aye.
Because they might not take it on, they might play it and think it's crap. You need somebody who's going to spend a proper amount of money, who's on your side, even though the game might be shit. They're going out there to say it's the best thing, and you need to have it. So I think that's the main thing.
It's interesting because I kind of talk to John here now and again. I mean, he has been on my channel a few times, and he's a nice guy. And they released a sort of, he's going to kill me for saying this, a sequel to Sensible Soccer. It's not, it's a completely different company, and he'd sort of say to me, "Oh, could you maybe like, sort of do a wee video about it, or whatever?" Oh yeah. I mean, I bought the game, I paid for it. I didn't. I mean, other than yourself, occasionally somebody will say, "Oh, here's a game. Do you mind playing it?" Oh, brilliant! And I'll always make a point of playing it. If it's completely pish, then I probably won't put the video out, because I think, well, these guys are kind enough to let me get a copy of the game.
Yeah.
But the game, that Sociable Soccer, at the point when I played it, it was an early release. I wasn't that stuck in it, so I just kind of didn't do anything with it. But aye, no, I mean, it's
That seems to be the cheap way of marketing the game. They think is to find a YouTuber with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, give them the game, they do a video, it goes viral, and they get lots of money. It hardly ever works.
I mean, you watch all these. I mean, I don't watch any big kind of channels that do video games, because personally, I think they're as dull as shit. They're in it just to make money. I don't make any money in my channel. I mean, but some people, oh, you monetize your channel. I says, here's the reality. Here's last week's Friday Waffle, 232 views. Money value 21 pence. That's the reality, and that's fine. I get 80 quid every maybe 6 months. It's a wee Brucey bonus. You think, well, I didn't think I had as much money in my account yet, and you realise Google Ireland, oh, I got 80 quid. But it takes me half a year to get that, But yeah, you get some of these, like there was a recreated Atari 2600 came out, and I watched a few videos, and every single person that had it said, just for, to be honest, I was given this by Atari. I don't believe that you can possibly do an honest review if you know that you're going to get given stuff for free. When you say this is shit, they're not going to give it to you. Simple as that. I've never ever been given anything like that at all. So yeah, if Nintendo want to give me the early Switch, I will gladly give it an honest opinion. But yeah, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, doesn't happen.
Yeah, excellent. Right, let's. Right, Craig's asking. I think you've pretty much answered that. What do you think of the modern games industry? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cutthroat. I mean, do you still enjoy the work as much as you did back in the day?
Oh yeah, I still enjoy the work. Yeah, and it's probably just as well because I can't do anything else.
But you've got a lovely collection of guitars. Do you sing or? Yeah.
No, nobody'd want to hear that. Oh God! I mean, I have had real jobs. I mean, I did work in a hotel for about 6 months on the night shift in this really old hotel, and I would go into the events rooms and hoover them up and tidy the tables up, and where they'd had a party the night before, and get the cake up off the carpet and all that sort of stuff. But I would just put headphones on and I would be listening to podcasts, and I would quite happily just go up and hoover and do all that sort of stuff.
So this was after sort of like this was after your Ocean days and all that.
This was only 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, really, yeah.
And I was working with other lads who were in their 20s, and I'm like, all right, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm just between jobs at the moment. Oh, what do you do? Well, I make video games. Really? And then they're like, what have you done? Oh, yeah. And then you have to answer all these questions, and then more questions come, and then they want to be your mate.
You've got kids, Bill, have you?
Yeah, I've got one boy. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask what age he is?
He'll be 28.
Right. I mean, it's obviously he's aware of what his old man did. What does he think of what you did and what you do?
Well, he's getting into the same sort of thing.
Oh, is he? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. he's doing it well. He's left it a bit late, but he's getting in. He's doing it his own way. I mean, I got him into a couple of companies where I was working when he was like 15, and got him like play testing. But he sort of didn't want to do that. It's almost like he didn't want me to help him. So he sort of stepped away, and then he's been down in Falmouth doing a degree in games design. I think that this is, in fact, he's probably nearly finished now. He's done his 3 years or whatever. And he's getting into it. He's getting into that sort of thing. I've seen him, like he's got a bag, like a bag that you keep your books in. It's a ZX Spectrum bag. It's got the keyboard on it. He got my old N64 and all my cartridges, so he took it down south with him. I had to buy him a CRT TV because you have to play him on a CRT.
Of course you do, especially N64.
Yeah. So he's into it. He's into it. But I think he wanted to do it in his own terms. He didn't want me to like say, I can get you in here, no problem. So I think he wanted to.
I respect that he did that, I suppose. But it's interesting. So I mean, he's aware that he did games. I mean, has he played like Chase HQ in the Spectrum at all? Have you let him see it?
I haven't. I know. I'd never sat down with him and showed him anything that I'd done. It was always like, well, when he was little, it was the PS1. So he would be playing Spyro or something, and then I got an N64, and he would like be playing Zelda with me. He was only like 3 or 4. And then that's his retro PS1. So
yeah.
So he's gone through the PS2, PS3, and moving up to PC now. So I've not. I'm sure he's probably seen them, but I've not actually sat down and showed him any of the stuff that I've worked on.
I suppose I know when you think about it, like there's probably things that. I mean, there are a few things that I've done that I've been quite proud of and all that, but my daughter's probably not even aware of it. And let's be honest, you're not really when you're a kid, you don't really if your dad tells you, "Oh, come on, I'll show you." No. I'd rather watch a YouTube video, Dad, how to do it. I don't.
Yeah, well, they don't care, do they? When they get to about 13 or 14, the last thing they want to do is even talk to you. They want to be out with their mates. So I'm not going to say, come and play this game that I used to do when I was in the 1990s. No, we're not doing that.
It'll only be when we hit kind of 70-year-old, then your kids will probably start to kind of come round and listen to what their old dad said about it. But aye, right, I've got another question. I'm just conscious of time here, Bill. You said an hour. We've only 50 minutes.
Have we done an hour yet?
We've done an hour and 50. I just like to annoy people with OCD. I always like to end at like 1:57 or something, just to piss people off. Bill, what's your favourite role-playing game ever, if you have one?
Role-playing game? What sort of? Give me some examples.
Role-playing. I mean, technically, you could say any game. Pac-Man's a role-playing game. You're playing as a round blob that eats things. Space Invaders, you're playing the role of a sort of pilot in a spaceship. I think what they're probably kind of getting at is like something where you craft things and you pick up treasure chests and you unlock swords and all that kind of bollocks.
Well, yeah, you've just described it, haven't you? So it's going to be the Zelda series for me.
Yeah, because that was.
I know you love them, don't you?
I love. Yeah. That was spoiler. But if you've not watched Bill's Nice and Nasty, you picked. Was it Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah,
I think it was, and you weren't the only person. I've got a mate who I've known for a long time, Andrew Lowe. He's now an author, but he grew up in London, and he's like a robot when it comes to playing games. There is no game that he's not just my favourite anecdote. He used to write for Games Master magazine, and then he was deputy editor of Total Film.
Oh,
And
right.
I mean, if I've met him a few times, we've met at Arcade Club, and he gave up. He gave up Total Film, and
Total Film.
Total Film magazine, and yeah, he would. I mean, he spent like 3 days with Tom Cruise and bloody what's her face, Keira Knightley, and that. And I'm like, why would you want to give that up? He went, she's fucking some of the people that you're hanging about. He says he used to go to like the sort of the press would get a sneak preview of a new film. It would be like getting shown in some cinema, and it says we'd be told, right, the film starts at 7. Come along for it's 6:30. You'll get like canaps and bloody wine and all that. He says he used to wait till like a minute to 7, and then he would just duck in, sit at the front, watch the film, and as soon as it finished, he'd fuck off. He says because he couldn't be arsed with all the fucking just that whole thing. What was I talking about with Andy?
Role playing games.
Role playing games. Anyway, yeah. So he was a complete ninja at any game. Anyway, so he wrote for the Games Master magazine, and it was like a Sega magazine. I can't remember what they're called. Not Total Sega. It was a big Sega magazine. Virtua Tennis had just been released, and they had it as a big feature game. So they had a party to release for the release of Virtua Tennis. Andy had never played the game in his life; he'd never seen it before. So he went along to this big event in London somewhere and getting pissed and playing thingy. And he said that he absolutely pissed everybody off. He says because nobody could beat him at this game. He's just like, how do you do it? Like he said I think I lost 1 point. And all these guys that had been playing it for like months before it, they all worked for like the Dreamcast magazine. They couldn't fucking take a point off this guy. He's even from like games like Defender and games like FIFA Soccer, just fucking wipe the floor off you. But yeah, so he was on the Nice and Nasty, and again, it's a spoiler. He picked exactly the same game as you, as is the game that he would take to like a desert island, and I thought he was going to go for like Defender or Tempest or something. That he went for a modern Zelda game. So yeah, Zelda.
One of the good things about working at Ocean was you got to see quite a lot of films before they were released.
Oh, did you really? Aye, right.
We got to see Terminator 2. We got to see Terminator 2 in an empty cinema, just us, before it had even been cut.
Terminator 2?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
We saw Total Recall before it was cut. Again, just us in the cinema. We got to the premiere of Jurassic Park. The press premiere, when there was all like
the red carpet.
It was the day before. we were there with the press, so it was like people like Jonathan Ross and like Chris Evans and all them people were there.
Right.
So yeah, we got to see quite a few things before anybody else did. That was one of the good takeaways.
Yeah. So what was that? Just a perk rather than, well, we want you to see the
films. Because we were doing the film license, they would let us in to see the film really early.
Mm-hmm. I mean, suppose
like a weeks earlier before it was released.
So were you like vowed to silence? You couldn't tell anybody about it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, the Terminator 2, the one we saw, was a lot more violent than the one that was actually released.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. I mean, there's, the bit where she's sort of trying to escape from the hospital and she attacks that guy with a broom handle.
Yeah.
It goes on for ages. She battered the hell out of this guy on the floor, and we were like, whoa, this is a bit much. And then it was cut down to about bang, bang, that's it, and off.
Yeah, I know when I said I've had Gary, he's been on the channel a few times, and yeah, I mean, he said one of the highlights was when he was in Steven Spielberg's bloody office. He was, I can't
I
remember
know
what.
that was the one thing I was really envious about his job was he got to meet all these people at that
And
time.
and
I
he
was
always. What was it again? Oh bloody hell! What the hell was her name again? She was in. Oh Christ Almighty! I can't even remember her bloody name. She was one of these like beautiful looking women. Her and her husband, not Quaid. I can't remember. No Dennis Quaid. It
was
was
it
the.
Kim Basinger and Alec
Aye,
Baldwin?
that's it. Oh, he's told you that story, has he? When
I've
he,
heard that. I might have heard it on your podcast.
I think he invited them. Gary invited them to his house for their dinner or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
If you're
can't
in
remember
London,
what
just pop in and have your tea.
of your tea. I know, brilliant. Listen, Bill, last one. Edwardian tea chest. Question for Bill: will you be converting your new Ocean text adventure game at the C64? What's this all about? New
Well,
Ocean
thanks for
text
reminding
adventure.
me because I need to finish that. It's another. I've got so many little personal projects on the go that they never get finished. Yeah, I'm doing a text adventure based on the old Ocean building in
Oh,
Manchester.
really?
Yeah. So I've mapped out all the building into all the rooms where everybody would like work.
Yeah.
I've got upstairs. I've got an idea of the sort of things that you're going to do in it. But the idea was people have always asked me, "Oh, what was it like to work at Ocean?" And you can't tell anybody within like 2 or 3 minutes what it was like. So I thought, right, I'll do this thing. It'll be like a text adventure that'll describe all of the rooms and the things that are in there. And it'll just be like a tour where you can go around and like such and such a person works there. And this is the place where this person works and all that sort of thing. And it's sort of spiraled into something else where you've actually got things to do. You actually got tasks
And
that
are
you
you
have
doing
to
all this
complete.
yourself then, yeah?
I'm programming this myself.
I thought you could program. I thought
And
you
I'm
were
not,
just.
I can't. I'm learning.
What are you using then to write this thing then?
There's a website called Adventuron, and it's like you have to lay out your map with your rooms and how they're linked
Oh,
up.
really?
And then you have to. It's quite easy to understand. It's like basic, but it's not basic commands. And once you know what the commands are, it's like, oh yeah, just do it.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I started doing that, and then I put a video of it on Twitter, and then somebody was like, "Oh yeah, that's really good. Can we put it in Crash?" We're like, "Okay." So it's been mentioned in Crash, and then I didn't go back to it after that. So I'm like, "Oh shit, I need to get this done. I need to get it completed."
No
So
pressure.
it's coming soon.
Oh, brilliant! If you
I'm
want
gonna.
any bug testing, then send a copy of my way, and I'll gladly,
I will do. But
help
it's
you out,
just
mate.
like I've got so many things like floating about that I want to do, but I guess that they're all half finished, so I need to finish something. So yeah, I will get around to it. Whether it's going to come out on the Commodore 64, I don't know because I wouldn't know how you would. I was going to do it actually on the Spectrum on a tape, but now I'm going to do it where you play it through a browser on the website, but it'll
Right.
still look like the Spectrum. It'll have the Spectrum font and the colors and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully.
I look forward to that. Well, Dell's boys saying there it's a bit like visual mapping out and then the code around it. Yeah, the Quill that was an adventure creator thing, wasn't it? I think they got
Yeah,
released.
yeah. I did start using that, and then I got a bit stuck because I was using I was using it on an emulator, which was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then somebody showed me towards this adventure on site, which was a lot easier, and it wasn't as restrictive because there's only certain things you can do on the Spectrum, obviously. So there's more things that you can do on it. So fingers crossed I'll get it done this year.
I look forward to seeing that. Anyway, we've missed the 157. We've now ticked over 2 hours. With that said, I think it's I
was going to say do it 2:22, but that's coming up in a couple of seconds.
I think 2:02 and 17 seconds is quite enough. Listen, Bill, thank you very much. I mean, I gave you about 20 minutes notice. Yeah, you fancy cut? All right then. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Anytime you want to come on, mate.
It was a good wee chat.
You're very welcome. You better go and spend time with your missus before bedtime anyway. So,
and finally, folks, watching Grey's Anatomy anyway, so I'll just be disturbing her.
Excellent. I'll be along as always on Sunday for the Sunday live stream, 7 o'clock till 9. So thank you very much for watching, folks. And again, thanks very much to Bill. Take care then, guys. Cheers, buddy.
See ya.
Bye.